Start this stream, see what we've got. Check 1, 1, 1. We're just watching the YouTubes. Looks like we got a nice stream. Looks like it's kicking in. There we go. See, check the audio. Yep, got audio. Good to go. Go ahead and shut that down for a second. Hey everybody, how's it going? We're just giving CouchBot a second to catch up. CouchBot's been pretty good about announcing our arrival. CouchBot's been pretty good about announcing our arrival, and yeah. So with that, we're just giving CouchBot a second. We do have a new video that dropped last night. I'm just watching my frame rate here. Looks like we got a slight error. Just wanting to make sure that that's going over well to gosh, what is it that I do here? I don't know. Just wanting to make sure that frame rate goes over to YouTube well before we get this started. Sometimes buffering takes a minute to sort itself out. But with that said, we're recording live, and we're going to we've got like 3 or 4 students to look at this morning, which is their student work is really good overall. But and there is CouchBot. We are now live. So with that said, the announcements went out, so let's go ahead and get this underway. Greetings, one and all. Chris Courtney here, new Pragmatic. It's time for the feedback loop. So good to have you along here. We've got a nice little assortment of work to look at this morning. Ruby's back. She's working on her design assignment for a application, and basically, I'm just kind of taking a look after the fact at what she put together there. Abby is back. She's got some updates. She's going to be doing a preference test, and she's prepping for that. She comes from a visual design background, but has not applied it to a digital product before. So I'm really excited to see what she's got going on. And then Abraham's making further iterations on his project that he's working on at his employer as well. So without further ado, I'm going to change my screen here, and let's go ahead and get this started. So let's start right here with Abby. I'm sorry, this isn't Abby. This is Ruby. Ruby has basically gone through, and she's done a ton of research, as you would probably see if you had a chance to go through. It's like she did 14 pages of research on this project, and that's first of all really nice job overall. It's not something that you can do on all design assignments. You simply may not have time to do that, but I think you really showed that you can go above and beyond, and you also you did a good job of finding supporting documentation. I always think a material search is helpful, especially when you can't perform proper research. So this is like, if I can't get side to side with either who's a practitioner who's using the product or a user who might be interested in using the product, I then want to do some material research, and you've done that. As we come through, you have a couple of outputs here. Aside from a high level overview of your research, you have the collateral that they asked you to create, and I think the collateral's fine. What I'm far more interested in is the actual flow that you put together. And the reason I'm interested in the flow that you put together is, frankly, it shows me whether or not you understand what the product is and what the problem is. And it kind of breaks down how you go about thinking about solving a problem and how you might do that for our organization. So as we come in here, this is patient in hospital experience without easy access. such as free will to advance healthcare directive. And the big thing that I'm looking at right away is like, okay, so how different are these patterns, and can I really see a different approach based on one approach is without the product, the next approach is with the product, and I can already see just from a very high level that you've got it's almost like you've got two paths, and then you've got like this loop that connects the two. You've got something similar in here, but I really want to go in and kind of see what the big difference is, because obviously this is doing a lot more work here, and I'm not necessarily sure why. And one of the things that I really love about how you put this together, Ruby, is you went through and you highlighted areas where the value, the happy path is, and where we have to make hard decisions. But you also keyed in on, hey, this is the biggest value to patients in hospitals. Like this right here, we're providing quick access to this healthcare directive right away through this product, and that's something that, like, the biggest problem the patient has is if they've made a healthcare directive but you can't find it, it might as well not exist. The biggest problem a hospital has is just finding that healthcare directive when they are under the pressure of actually providing service. So with this, you're highlighting like the key differentiator, and I think that it shows for me that you understand the problem. And for anybody that's looking at this, one of the things that I discussed with Ruby earlier in this process was the desire to have a life without the product and life with the product flow. Technically, you could have built these as one flow, but I think that when you're talking to people and you're wanting to illustrate that you understand that the product would allow for a different outcome, that is really where these flows begin to differ, and the second flow with the product obviously grows, and you're trying to illustrate that for people really fast, that, hey, I get it. Hiding those details inside of another flow, you run the risk of them being ignored, or not ignored, missed. And that's really that's like the worst case outcome for any situation where you're trying to get on board, like you're trying to win the client or you're trying to win the job. You want to show very visibly, hey, I get it. I know I understand what the challenge is, and I understand what value this product has. If you can break it down like Ruby's done here, you're going to be in a pretty good spot. So I really don't have a lot to add there, Ruby. I think that your approach and the other thing I'll say is that I really like the fact that you included a key. A lot of times, I don't necessarily need a key, provided that you're following the general best practices of creating a user flow. But I can't expect a client or maybe my teammates, maybe they don't necessarily understand like what a terminal is, and what the happy path is, and what the other alternatives are when you get the yes no. But having that key allows somebody to go in and really quickly see. And again, adding the emojis, like, that's not necessarily something that you have to have, but it certainly makes it more approachable for somebody who's just getting into it. They can really quickly see visibly, like, there's an emotion here, and so much so that I've put like some sort of emoticon with it, or emoji. So I think that's a really nice addition. It also shows a slight bit of playfulness, which I think is helpful on just about any team. So bless it. It's good. Move forward. I know that this is kind of the end of the path with this particular project, but you never know. I mean, you could move forward and get some sort of round 2 out of this, if that's the case. I would expect it to move somewhere different than this, but if it doesn't, you've got a lot of prep work already done. Let's take a look at let's take a look here at Abby. I've got to get out of this comment mode. Here we go. So Abby is working on her landing page design, and if you're new here, if you're watching the live stream for the first time and you're just kind of wondering what's going on, Abby's working on a project called Fresh Market, and Fresh Market is a meal delivery app that's been built basically into the side of a side of an existing grocery store, and they're really focused on subscriptions. So they want to get into not meal delivery, not like I'm going to deliver you a meal. They want to deliver you like 5 meals a week, and they want it to come prepackaged, and you just pull it out of the fridge, and you're good to go. The reason why you're seeing more of these pop up is grocery stores are like big warehouses that are in your neighborhood. Now, a lot of people can drive into them, but there's also like, do I want to go to the grocery store in the middle of a pandemic? Maybe not. There's also these are also a deli has, in a grocery store, there's 3 areas where a grocery store company makes money. They don't make any money on like consumer packaged goods. It's like pennies, okay? Where a store makes their money is on fruits and vegetables, on meats, and in the deli. And if you can find a way to boost sales out of the deli, well, by golly, that's what you want to do. So with that said, she's working on this new service for this company, Fresh Market. And I gotta say, Abby, I really like the palette. I think the palette that you've selected, the blues and the aquas and teals and greens, really lovely. Feels fresh. Feels clean. Now, elevate your eating. We've talked about the language. It's certainly better than something better here. And I was thinking about that. It could be something better is here. A better meal has arrived. Like there's other permutations that you can do. Obviously, you've got something better here, but you can't release this for consideration in a preference test with dummy text up there. So I would definitely clean that up. I really, really, really love the fact that you've got a little bit of texture in here with the icons, and then you go with the photo. You've cleaned it up. Like you're not trying to like put this over the photo. I just think that's super clean. It also works. It's going to work way better for you responsively. When this collapses down, you don't have to worry about where the type is moving. So I love this little detail. This is very similar. It looks like you're just beginning your design journey here. The thing that I always think about in these instances is like, what happens to this page when this, and I'm going to have to turn my tools back on. What happens to this page when the screen, if the user is on a big screen, you got to wonder what's going to happen to that image if it has to go side to side. Here it doesn't. You've done a very nice job of solving for that dilemma. I'll turn clip content back on. You've got to deal with that here. You've got to deal with that here. You don't have to deal with it here. You definitely need to deal with it here. But I think you've got some options here that are really nice. One thing that I would look at, and I was coming down here, and overall, I think that you've done a good job. I don't think you necessarily need the box here. It's kind of like you've got a box here. You've got another box here. I might even, you've got boxes inside of boxes in certain areas. So I'm trying to de-box it, but that's where I come back to like the lines that are around here. These borders. That might be on hover. I can see. I get the border, but when it's not when I'm not, you kind of see it here as you hover over. I could see it doing something like that, but I don't necessarily think that border is helping you here. But the big thing here is like, I look at this image that's in the background, and I see like you're asking the eye to come in and do this little gymnastics around those boxes. For some reason, it works. I think it's because this one is a little see-through. I'm not feeling the see-through. But if you were going to do this, I do think, and this is going to require some changing on like the button color and whatnot. But I do think allowing that to be the background is fine. But I would much rather go through and I'm just going to move this around a little bit. I'd much rather go through and make this kind of even to the top and bottom, but allow people to see that texture in the background, the food, but not have to go through the boxes like this to get to it. So just a little thought there. I thought that this was asking a lot, but if you could clean it up a little bit, I think it would work a little better. But overall, I think you're in a good spot. You want to look at your spacing. You want to look at your typography, or not your typography, but your actual language. Need to get some real anywhere there's dummy text. We want to get that out so that we can get this ready for a preference test. I think you're very close. I would hope that like by either the end of the day or maybe over the weekend, you're releasing a preference test on this. So you've got some really, really nice ideas. And I think now it's time to get some feedback from the larger community on that, which means if you're watching this and you're in the Discord channel, Abby's going to have something coming your way. She's going to make some tweaks, but you're going to have a say here. You're going to help influence which direction Abby goes. And she's moving in a lot of different directions right now, and I think she's got a lot of good options on the table. So with that, let's look over here at Abraham. And Abraham's been working very diligently on this dashboard. I'm going to hide the tools there. And by the way, to hide the tools, it's just command backslash. So command backslash turns those tools on and off. But here I'm looking at this, and right away, like yesterday, you had a whole rail for the device, and really we just had these two items here. I can now see that there's, even if these are gone, like, and I can't drag them away, but even if there's just one device here, it becomes a lot easier to focus on what's going on over here, because you've like given the space over to the devices, and this is the manage devices page, and now I can see which one's active and which one might have an error and which one is inactive. I can add a new device. This is where I would hope to see add new device. It's kind of like, and I think about this from a mobile perspective. Like, if I was in mobile, the screen would be these three cards sliding up and down. The top would be manage devices. I could add a device up in the corner, and I could go back to the patient. Maybe add a device moves down on mobile, but overall, like, that's the structure that I'm looking for. So I think this works very well. I still would like center these up on where the tab is. Right now they're kind of off kilter a bit. And then you had another question about change status, and you were talking about, should change status be here or move over? I always think that the declarative action, the action that I anticipate the user wanting to take, is always to the right, and then if the alternate is always to the left. So I would keep that pattern moving forward. I don't think it really changes from mobile to desktop. I always, my default is action that moves forward is to the right. If I want to back up, it's to the left. I do have some questions about, because I know that, like in a foreign language, like say Hebrew or Hindi, when the language moves the other direction, Like, does my actions move the other direction? I'm going to guess that they do. So if you were in a language, like if you were in Hebrew, and Hebrew is right to left instead of left to right, all of this flips. Like the entire page flips as well. But I think the status, like my default, because we were left to right, my default is that my last action is the one that I'm likely wanting to take, and you're having to anticipate that for them. I want that on the right, unless I'm in a language that moves right to left, and then I want it on the left. All right? But this is good. This is good. All right, so guess what, folks? That's going to do it, wrapping up a big week for Feedback Loop. I saw a lot of good work this week. A lot of good work. And you folks, ever since we got out of the basically it was like inauguration day. Everybody went to clear the jets and like push out. So really good finish. It started off slow, but it's holiday week. Started off slow, but finished with a bang. So good to have you all, Abraham, Abby, Ruby. Hey, you can get involved too. If you're watching this live stream and you're looking for design mentorship, I'm telling you, New Pragmatic, working with me, this is the place to be. Listen to my friends after the break. They're going to tell you all about it. Without further ado, I'm Chris Courtney. Thanks for joining me.